If knowing better was enough to bring about change, we would all be transformed by now. Because there are some things I do that I know better than to do. For example, eating ice cream. And there are some things I don't do that I know I should be doing. For example, working out. So today I want to show you why that gap between knowing and doing exists, and the one thing that actually closes it. Because it's probably not what you think, and it's definitely not just try harder. Do you know how many podcasts I've listened to on healthy eating? I have changed my eating style in the past year since I retired, but I can promise you, it didn't happen from just listening to podcasts. Most people who listen to a podcast or read a self-help book or hear a great sermon walk away inspired and yet remain unchanged the next day. In my years of walking alongside women, I have seen so many of them, myself included, walk away from a class or a study knowing the truth, but still living the same lies by next week. And honestly, history also proves this. Let me tell you a story, and I promise it ties together, so stay with me here. In the 1840s, there was a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis. He specialized in obstetrics, and the clinic where he worked in Vienna had a really high rate of women dying after childbirth from infection. In fact, it was so high that women began having their babies in the street just to avoid going there. Semmelweis noticed something. The women who had their babies in the street or used a midwife actually had a lower rate of death than the women in the clinic. He came to believe something was being transferred from the hands of the doctors. So he tested his theory. He began washing his hands with a chlorinated lime solution. Now, up to this time, doctors did not practice hand washing. They didn't know that germs existed. They didn't understand that. So this was revolutionary that he started doing this. And when he did, the death rate fell. It fell drastically. So he published his findings. He alerted the medical community. He didn't just have knowledge to share, he had proof. And the result, the proof, was saved lives. But the medical community mocked him. They absolutely refused to change. In fact, his theory didn't gain acceptance until years after his death, when Louis Pasteur's research confirmed germ theory. So what do I want you to take away from this very sad 200-year-old story? Here it is. The truth was given. The knowledge was shared. But knowledge alone wasn't enough to change the behavior of those doctors. Now, God showed me something completely unexpected in this story, and that's what I want to share with you. It turns out one of the reasons those doctors wouldn't change is that it went against their beliefs about who they were, about their identity. Because a gentleman of their station couldn't possibly have dirty hands. I mean, they weren't working out in the dirt, they weren't in the fields, they were gentlemen. They didn't ignore the truth because they were lazy. They ignored it because it threatened who they believed they were. So information lives in your head, but identity lives much deeper. And your behavior obeys your identity, not your information. You don't consistently act on what you know. You act on who you believe you are. Knowledge tells us what to do, but only a renewed mind changes what we actually do. And that's exactly why Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You'll notice it doesn't say be informed by the adding of more knowledge. So here's what that gap between knowing and doing produces in us. It produces shame. Because if I know better and I'm still not doing better, then something must be wrong with me, right? Maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you're the woman who knows that she's loved by God, but still can't say no to anyone because you need them to be pleased with you. Or maybe you're the woman who knows rest is biblical. You've talked to others about the importance of a Sabbath or a rest day, but you can't make yourself stop producing. Maybe you're the woman who can quote a verse. You even have it on a coffee mug, but you still can't live it out. And here's the conclusion most of us come to. I must not be trying hard enough. So we try harder. More discipline, more willpower, another podcast, another study, another journal, another diet. But can I tell you something? That conclusion, it's a lie. The problem was never your effort. Those doctors in Vienna weren't lazy. They were brilliant, hardworking men. Their problem wasn't effort. It was identity. And so is ours. Even the Apostle Paul knew this gap. He wrote, I do not do the good I want to do. Now, if Paul lived with the gap, you and I are in pretty good company. So let me be honest here for a minute. I have a book on identity coming out in 2027. It talks about how hard it is to live from our identity in Christ when we are surrounded by, immersed in this world. I literally wrote the book on this. And yet, every single time I stand up in front of people to speak, or I teach a class, or I lead a study, or I do a video, on the inside, all the doubts and questions are just coming at me. Will they like me? Do I really know enough about this to be teaching it? Who the heck am I to stand up in front of these women? I know some of them are way better at this than I am. Who do I think I am to write a book about this? I fight that voice in my head and the anxiety in my body every single time. And yet I know with all my being that God led me to write that book. Honestly, the book is nothing more than the story of God walking me out of all the places I walked into trying to find my identity. I know He led me to share what He's done in and through me. I know that my value and worth don't depend on whether others like me or approve of me or even agree with me. But I still don't always live it out. And there's a gap between what I know and what I do. Anyone else? So what actually closes this gap? Well, it might surprise you. It's repetition. Remember our doctors? The theory didn't win because Semmelweis published a better paper. It won because a few doctors kept washing their hands over and over, day after day, until the results were impossible to ignore. The truth was proven by the practicing of it. And the same is true for us. Transformation isn't a download. It's a renovation. You don't hear the truth once and walk away changed. Oh, I wish it worked that way. No, you practice the truth until it moves from your head down into your identity. And that is actually how God designed your brain. Scientists tell us that new neural pathways form through repetition, and Scripture's been saying it all along. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing. That's not a one-time event. That's a practice. You know, I told you at the beginning that I changed the way I eat during this past year. I promise you it wasn't the podcast that did it. It was the small, boring, repeated choices day after day. That's how the new way became my way. And that's exactly how it works with truth. You don't think your way into new living. You practice your way into new believing. So if you find there's a gap between knowing who Jesus says you are and actually living like it, please hear me. That is not a character flaw. That's a signpost. It's pointing to exactly where the renewal work happens. So here's your one step to take this week. Pick one truth you already know, but don't live. Just one. And put it on repeat. The same verse every morning out loud. Don't add any more information. Simply practice old truth. I'll add down in the comments some verses that you might start from if you're having a hard time deciding. And if you want to go deeper into how identity drives behavior, I actually made a whole video on that. I'll link it below too. If this spoke to you today, would you subscribe and join me? Every week we're learning to trade the lies for what God said is already true. And doing that will help us do the work of Romans 12 and be set free to live as who God created us to be. I'll see you next time.